Welcome back to the Eat More Plant series. I'm your host, Marina, and today we're joined by Stevie Smith. Stevie is a registered dietitian and actually an avid endurance athlete. And her mission is to help educate and coach athletes on how to fuel their goals while not sacrificing their health. So Stevie's a board certified specialist in sports nutrition, and she's helped hundreds of athletes and active individuals fuel to improve their performance, energy levels, and recovery without feelings of guilt and restriction. That last part is awesome. I mean, like the endurance thing is pretty cool too. So anyways, welcome.
Appreciate that. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. So tell me a little bit about kind of what you do, and because you have a really cool specialty.
Yeah, absolutely. I kind of feel now that I have been the jack of all trades. I do have a clinical nutrition background. I worked in clinical nutrition for 6 years in Washington, D.C. at the VA hospital. So I saw a lot of interesting, also very sad when people, have a lot of chronic illnesses, but ALS, MS, SCI, traumatic brain injury, head and neck cancer. So that kind of laid the foundation, and then threw in the sports side as always being an athlete. Grew up playing team sports, played lacrosse in college, then found running, then got a bike, learned how to swim, and have done mostly long distance triathlons, Ironman triathlon. And kind of as I made that transition from like a team sport athlete, as I built my career as a dietitian, and through my own experience doing full Ironmans, I was kind of like, oh yeah, like the nutrition stuff is obviously important for our health, but also so I can swim, bike, run, do all of these races. And as I kind of got into that endurance world, more of the, low energy availability, restrictive eating, kind of those habits and tendencies were something that came more to the forefront for me. Not anything I really struggled with personally, but I was around so many athletes in these sports that I just saw it constantly happening and think, oh no, I can't eat this, I can't eat that, I need to get to race weight, those kind of thoughts. And, unfortunately, I saw a lot of friends get sick, injured, because they were kind of had a closed mind and were so weight focused, rather than fueling for performance focus. So, along my journey through clinical and then kind of working a little bit more in the private practice, working for a couple other companies, I learned more on how I want to help people, particularly athletes. So now I have my own private practice. It's my name, Stevie Lyn Nutrition.
It's simple.
Real simple. I was like, let's be creative. And I was like, no, let's just keep it simple.
Exactly what I did, because I was like drowning in I don't know what to name this thing. It's going to use my name. So yeah.
Right. Just use your name. I mean, there are other dietitians and nutritionists out there who have kind of got ahead of the game and got some of the really cool names. So I'm like, all right, they have those. I'm going to do my own thing. Yep. So now my main focus of my business is I work with clients one-on-one. So I do nutrition coaching, kind of looking, at fueling your day, fueling your recovery, fueling your training, and fueling your mindset. The mindset piece is very important for all of that and all of us when we approach our nutrition. I also do content creation and writing, mostly focus in the sports nutrition endurance world, female athletes, and now a little bit more of the cooking videos. And with my assistant, my dog, he's my business partner.
Perfect. I'm sure he gives you a lot of motivation.
Oh yeah.
Lots of snuggles. Okay, so actually I have a quick question. Do you pretty much work with people who are they're already in this, they're running, they're doing all these things, or do you ever work with people who are maybe I want to become more active, or, kind of looking for that balance?
Yeah, great question. I work with experienced sport veterans or also newcomers to sport. And who I work with, it doesn't have to be you're training to run a half marathon or an Ironman. Even if you're just looking to start to include regular activity into your lifestyle, I see a lot of people who don't identify as athletes, but if you're doing like back-to-back spin classes or doing like spin class and then hit and, doing that pretty regularly throughout the week, you are an athlete. People just don't tend to have that identity if they're not racing or they're not, playing a particular sport. But that doesn't make fueling any less important for them. Of course, it's going to look a little bit different. But so really anyone who's active, high performers, because nutrition is just as important, even without a finish line.
I dabble in a lot of different things, but like I rock climb. I don't want to say I am a rock climber. I don't think I'm good enough to say that, even though I've been doing it for a little while now, but and just like hiking and like backpacking and things like that. And these are all just things that's like, I just need to do that to kind of like get my mind away from like real world stuff. Right. But I think when you're in it, all of a sudden I'm like, okay, I probably should have fueled myself a little bit better before I got here. And here we are. And now it's like, next time I'm going to do this better. So, I think we find ourselves in those situations where we don't have the right information, right? I know people who would do like really long backpacking trips, and it's even something as simple as like having enough vitamin D for your trip. Just things that you don't think about. And it's almost like you need a specialist. So like for you, like endurance, I actually had a professor, my first like real nutrition class in college, did not realize it was all about biochemistry. So that was a big shock to me. But he was like,
that must have hurt.
Oh, it hurt for 3 years. I don't know why I stuck through it, but here we are. But so he was like an avid biker, and he would do like all this like cross country, and he would always talk about the edge that you get when you know how to fuel yourself properly. And it was never about weight. It was never about restriction. It was everything that you just said of fueling your muscles, fueling your energy, and being aware of like how much energy do you need for how long, and how do you get that without getting a stomach ache, without side effects of this and that. Like there's so much to it.
Yeah, absolutely. And like also, even if you are a rock climber by definition, if you actually climb rocks, you are a rock climber. But
you heard it here first.
I'm declaring it for you. Did I lose my train of thought? Oh, I mean, we're all busy, right? So we're taking that time out of our day to rock climb or hike or swim or run. So why not make the most of it? If you're underfueled, you're probably going to feel like garbage. You're probably not going to feel very good. And if you're new to exercise and you're not eating enough and you don't feel good when you exercise, you're probably going to be less inclined to like consistently go back to it. But also more for like those people who we know are going to get into that exercise routine. You want to at least feel good. I mean, every run isn't going to be perfect, but going into it under fuel, they're not feeling properly after, is going to reflect in your next workout and probably also in your daily life with your energy levels too.
Mm-hmm. Your boss is behind you. I think he's super.
I know, my manager's here. He knows there's food around.
Yes, there will be soon at least. And just kind of to feed off of what you just said too, it's not even about fueling your exercise, but even to like for me, getting some exercise in keeps me more motivated to fuel my body properly. And it's like a cycle that feeds into itself. So I'd always say like no matter what kind of movement it is, it doesn't have to be something like as extreme as rock climbing or endurance running, but anything that keeps you moving, I think just kind of puts you in that right mindset to say, hey, I feel great and I want to keep that going. And so like, what are ways that you can support that?
Yeah, absolutely. Yes. And this is also the plug that walking is exercise.
Yes, absolutely. 100%. So what are we making today?
So today we're going to make some loaded baked sweet potatoes. Yes, I know. As you said, people kind of sometimes think of loaded potatoes and think bacon, all the sour cream, like those really crispy. I think they like, if you get them at a restaurant, they even like deep fry them first, right? That's not, that's not what we're going for here. This is a variation that I like to do, and I really like this. I say air quotes recipe because I am a dietitian who's not the best at recipes. I'm more of like, let's look at what I have and what can I put together as a meal. Nothing wrong with really great recipes though, by the way. It's just how I operate a little bit better. So I like to teach this one because it's really simple, and I like people to kind of feel confident that like, oh, okay, I've got this sweet potato or, regular russet potato, whatever you might have, and I can make a meal out of this, and it's going to be pretty quick. Once the potato is baked, that's the hard part. And it's going to be really quick, also very nourishing. And I can look and see what do I have on hand and kind of change up the toppings. It's a great way to get beans in, which I know unless you're very plant forward, plant focused, vegetarian, vegan, I feel like most, meat eaters and all-inclusive food eaters don't get a lot of beans in. Maybe it's just the people I come across, but I feel like it's not as intuitive for a lot of people. So I like this because it's easy to just throw beans in the mix on top of these potatoes as well, as someone who's always trying to get more beans in. And then, you can always just vary the toppings, like I said, with what you have on hand, but also for your, whatever your food preferences are. If you eat dairy, some dairy foods like Greek yogurt and cheese go great on top. If you don't, avocados, guacamole, nutritional yeast are some of my other favorite toppings there too.
Yeah, awesome. And actually, on your comment with the beans, until this series, I am a nutritionist and I almost never ate beans. Like, it was just, if somebody's going to make them for me, wonderful. I love it. But like, I just never went out of my way to make them. And I found these like little boxed beans, and I'm just like, why haven't I been doing this all the time? Like boxed, canned, like whatever. It's so easy. And now it's like I have my pantry stockpiled with these guys, and it's just like a meal is done in like 10 minutes if you wanted to. So,
oh yeah, absolutely. Yeah. I actually try to open a can once a week in my meal prep, and I put it in a Tupperware, and then I am so much more likely to use them throughout the week and it's so simple because like opening a can and like draining and rinsing them takes basically no time. But the fact that I just put it in a Tupperware and it's there, I'll see it and be like, oh, I can throw this on this salad. Or like maybe I'll put this in with my eggs and veggies, et cetera, et cetera. So.
Yeah. And there's also a little bit of guilt of like, this is going to go bad now. So now we're on time limits.
Exactly. The accountability.
Yeah. That's the only food guilt we're allowed to have is about the food going bad.
Yes, I love it. That's awesome.
All right, awesome. Yeah, love this. Okay, so let's get started. And like you said earlier too, there's so many different ways to do this. I have a little red onion here because I'm a psycho and put onions on everything. You could do garlic. You had like a Greek option that you mentioned that sounded really good. What was that?
Oh yeah. I don't have the tools on hand with me, but you could even spin it if you did olives, feta, red onion would go good, and a little bit of Greek dressing instead is kind of like the fat and flavor there. I like to kind of change up those flavor profiles whenever you can. Spinach would also be good in that too if you had some sauteed spinach to throw on top. I got some broccoli. I got some black beans. Definitely putting some avocado on there. Salsa. Hot sauce is also good. I mean, you could I have tomatoes here, and you could just even chop up tomatoes and put them on top too. So really, again, that's why I like it. You have the base. So even if you're going about your day and you roast the potatoes, I have 2 in the oven, so I can have that ready and use that for lunch tomorrow and just grab the rest of my toppings. So it's real simple. No rules. Exactly.
And you can make up a whole bunch of these or whatever, white potatoes, whatever it is that you have, make them like, on a Sunday. It's the greatest meal prep. Right. And these guys will keep in the fridge for quite a few days.
Yes, absolutely.
Right. Okay. So what do we do with this potato? So if I've never made a sweet potato before, how the heck do I deal with this guy?
So first, definitely would wash it.
Okay. Yeah. Actually, I've now
already done, did it in the prep. And then really simply, you can chop the ends off before you roast it. I usually don't. I'll just work around them after, it's done roasting. So that's your choice. And then set the oven to 425. You're going to poke some holes into the potatoes. And then, you can wrap them in foil to try and get them to cook a little bit faster if they're like very thick potatoes, or you could just put them on a baking sheet with foil. And that is it.
Okay, got it. So let me rinse this guy off real quick. And we're keeping the skin on, yeah?
Yes. Yep, skin stays on. Yes, great question.
Okay, awesome. And I think this is a question people have a lot. At least I'm going to ask it. Maybe they don't. Do we eat the skin?
I typically leave this up to people's preference, but you can eat the skin. That's where most of the fiber is going to be. I eat the skin. Some people can't stand it. And if you hate it, then you don't have to eat it. You're still getting a lot of good nutrients from the inside of the potato.
Mm-hmm. Awesome. Sounds good.
Are you team eat the skin or?
I usually am. But it's kind of like on a case by case basis. Like sometimes it's just like too fibrous and it's like you just can't really even chew through it,
Mm-hmm.
I think it just depends. But usually I try, but I mean, this guy's like, he's not very pretty.
Yeah.
So I'm not sure I'm gonna end up tasting. There might be some parts of it I'm gonna leave out.
You can always just leave it on and then eat everything inside of it, and it's totally fine.
Yeah, so we definitely want to cook it with the skin on though, because
oh yeah, for sure.
Together. Okay, and then are you team fork or team knife in terms of stabbing this guy?
Ooh, depends. I did forks for mine today, but I kind of regretted that and wish I had used the knife because they were a little bit of work.
Okay. We'll see if there's any blood drawn here today.
Right? Which I'm going to check my potatoes.
Okay. Yeah, I'm using a knife. I've used a fork as well. I feel like anytime I use a fork, I get it stuck in there, and then it's just like the whole thing trying to get the fork out. But stay safe.
Exactly. Yeah. Whatever you're gonna do, less harm or no harm to yourself with. Yes, my potatoes are done.
Okay, awesome. I'm sure mine are too. So I'm starting to smell them a little bit, which right now they're probably smelling a lot. I'm just not aware of it. Okay, and so we'll grab some tin foil here and a baking sheet. Yeah, and I don't know if like in terms of wrapping it in tin foil versus leaving it open, I don't know if that's going to change like the way that it cooks or the texture of it at all.
It shouldn't.
Okay. Yeah. I mean, I'm open to like anything. I really don't care. I'll eat anything, but for anybody wondering.
Right. Yeah, no, it shouldn't. It should just help it cook a little bit faster.
Okay, got it. Let me check my guy that I put in here. It's like a little burrito. Oh yeah. Oh boy, he's done. He's juicy in there. Is yours juicy?
Oh, so good.
Yeah, I love sweet potatoes. A lot of people don't. So like you had said, you can definitely do this with a white russet potato too.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's basically if you have white russet on hand, that's awesome. If it's easier access for the white russets, that's good. I actually didn't really eat sweet potatoes until I went to college, and then they came into my life. So I'm catching up for lost time.
He's gooey. I do think sweet potatoes kind of give off a lot of juice when they're cooked. I always forget about this until I make it. Right. So I'm gonna set this one aside and prep a little bit of the veggies that I have here. Do you know the difference between a yam and a sweet potato and all that?
Oh boy, that's a quiz. I don't think I know it off the top of my head.
You know how many times I've learned this and I can never remember the difference because I don't care. I'll eat all of it. It makes no difference to me.
Basically, I feel the same way. Yeah, I don't remember off the top of my head because I always just go for the sweet potatoes.
Yeah. I also read somewhere that a lot of times they're like mislabeled, so it could actually be a yam or the opposite or something. It was all beyond my comprehension.
I try to try to keep it really simple. If someone gets a yam and they want to eat a yam, it's, a vegetable and I'm about it. If they want to eat a sweet potato, they eat a sweet potato. I won't be too picky, right?
Yeah. All right. So I'll chop up some broccoli. And you had said actually you probably want to steam the broccoli ahead of time.
Yeah, that usually, I mean, again, it's kind of in like my meal prep kind of thought process of like how many things can I have ready and on hand in the week. So I always just, if I buy something like broccoli, I just do a big steam because then, like I said, I'm going to reheat my potato and make another one of these tomorrow. That I'll just put all my toppings on and pop it in the microwave, and then it'll be ready to go.
Okay, awesome. But yeah, that's really great ideas actually for meal prepping there too. I don't do a whole lot of meal prepping just because I'm kind of one of those, like, I just throw things together, but it's nice to have a couple of those things on hand.
Oh yeah, yeah. I'm definitely not a big like, okay, Tuesday I'm gonna eat tacos X, Y, or Z. It's like, okay, what do I have? What was on sale at the store? And like, how can I like get it ready beforehand? So like during the week when things are really busy, it's just easier to grab, go, and reheat. And then more of like the components. So I can again do different flavor profile meals throughout the week.
So I'm chopping my broccoli here, got my little onion here. I have a question for you. So, like, what do you find with the people that you're working with? Like, what are some common mistakes or like misconceptions that are happening in, like, endurance world and also just like in fitness in general?
Yeah, no, great question. Number one thing is that most people are very often unintentionally under eating, just because of a lot of voices and out there in social media, etc. I don't think, especially in like longer endurance athletes, actually realize how much they need to eat. You know, if you're a female athlete and you're eating under 2,000 calories a day, you're definitely probably under fueling. That's a big one. There's been a lot of like especially in the endurance world, a lot of like keto, like no carb, low carb, high fat diet for fueling. I'm not a large fan of that. I often find that athletes fall a little bit short on the fiber, their fiber intake, their whole grain intake, because when you're trying to time your meals and snacks around runs, workouts, like obviously you're not going to want to sit down to a bowl of beans if you're running in 2 to 3 hours. Like that's probably going to be too much for your stomach. So really when people try to do that high fat, low carb situation, we're already cutting out even more fiber that, they kind of struggle to get in around their training schedule as is. So those are some of the big things.
Yeah, and it's so interesting where it's like, I think a lot of the diet misconceptions have totally like overflown into the exercise world as well. And it's just really like wreaking havoc on everybody in general. And it's so sad. I mean, it really kind of brings you back, I think, even to high school sports and just kind of like, it's alarming that this goes on because I remember I had like some wrestler friends and they would literally like sit to make weight and stuff, and it's like, and then you talk about like gymnastics or dance and things like that. And it was just like, I mean, rampant eating disorders, right?
Yep.
And it was celebrated almost in a sense. One of my best friends is a figure skater. And I, like now looking back with the perspective that I have now, is like, oh, like that was harmful. And she didn't know, she was doing what her coaches were telling her and supporting her with. And it's just so sad. And that you see it like, it continues into your 20s and your 30s and 40s. And then I'm sure it results into actually, reduced ability to run and probably increase maybe like bone issues and things like that, especially for females, and even like reproductive issues, I'm sure.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it's a very kind of sad, chain of events, and not enough dietitians in younger youth sports, but hopefully that'll start changing. Absolutely.
Yeah. So how do you support your athletes in increasing the fiber? Because like you said, it's kind of hard to time it sometimes.
Yeah. So one of the big tools that I use with my athletes are performance plates, just to also kind of help guide us on how much should we actually be eating in our meals. And these performance plates are kind of based on the day's training volume. If they have 2 workouts in the day, is it a hard day? Is it an easy day? Is it a moderate day? And then, those opportunities when we're not having to worry about a practice, are we getting, a good amount of whole grains in? Are we getting legumes in? Not just filling up on big salads, but making sure that, outside of those workout kind of windows and times, are we focusing on those whole grains, those complex carbohydrates to get some more fiber in?
Mm-hmm. And how do you know as an athlete that you might not be nourishing your body the way that you should?
Yeah, so there's a number of different, kind of signals, but lack of motivation, trouble sleeping. Obviously, if you get sick often or injured, if you feel like you're not recovering from your workouts, if you're constantly like dragging, you're not able to perform, you'll see, a decrease in whatever your performance is. Like a cyclist, you won't be able to hold the same power, the same effort. If you're a runner, maybe you can't hit those paces for those workouts. You'll start to see it show up in the workouts. Also some mood issues, irritability, depression, anxiety are also some things too. So it's also, some of them are hard to kind of pull apart. Is this diet, or am I sad because it's winter? Or, there's also a lot of stressors and pressure, especially if you're like a team sport athlete in college, even in high school, a lot of external pressures that can kind of bring out some of those responses. And it's, how much fatigue is too much fatigue, right? Because you're training a lot, you're going to school or you're working, etc. So, just being in tune with your body. And if you're not feeling well for kind of, a day here and there, it happens, not every workout's going to be great, but if it's kind of a consistent pattern, maybe it's time to take a step back and a closer look at your fueling.
Yeah, I think it's important to have a support team to kind of behind you, and have somebody that might kind of, put up that red light and say, hey, there might be something going on here.
Yep, absolutely.
Awesome. Okay, so let me get cracking at these beans. This is definitely like the Marina struggles with opening boxed beans. You would think I'd get better at it by now.
Right.
Oh, here we go. This is it. Stevie, you're like my number 10, I think, on the list. How many times I've opened this? That's the magic number. Oh my gosh, that was amazing. All right, so when you're using canned or boxed, we just drain and rinse them and they're ready to go, right?
Yep.
Boxed, canned, like ready to go beans are wonderful. If you do ever venture out to dry beans, it's really not as hard and intimidating as we make it out to be.
Yep.
It just takes a little bit of planning. I have a really amazing black bean recipe that I found. It's super simple. I mean, it takes like, I don't know how long it actually takes to cook, an hour or two, but all in all, like, it's not that difficult. So
not that bad.
Yeah, if you got a little extra time on your hands, I encourage you to try it out just for funsies.
Right? Yeah, I will admit that I'm 100% canned, easy breezy.
Yep. 99% of the time I am. Once in a while I'll venture out and get a little crafty there. Okay, so we got all of our stuff here, I think. And now we just get to assemble it and pop it back into the oven real quick.
Yep.
Okay. Is yours sticky?
Yes.
Okay.
Totally normal.
I was like, it's kind of starting to worry a little bit now. Okay, great. I just bought these.
So, I mean, when you're really stuffing this, you can either cut it open or smash it down with a fork. Basically, whatever works best for you. You just kind of want to maneuver it in a way that you're going to put all of the goodies in it. I prefer to mash mine down, but that's just me.
Okay, can you show me what you're doing? Is that possible?
Okay, sorry, so basically I just go like this.
Oh.
So it makes awesome. Like a little boat, you know what I mean?
That works way better.
Yeah, so, and then it flattens it out, so then I can put all the goodies right on here.
Yeah, do you know how many years of my life I spent trying to like put more stuff into a potato, and I'm like, there's not enough room. Oh my gosh, this 32 years old and I learned this hack. Perfect.
better late than never.
Love it.
Also, side note, it's snow squalling out right now.
Yes, me too. Wait, where do you live again? Are you in DC?
I'm in Buffalo.
Oh, Buffalo. Oh my gosh. Didn't you guys just get a bunch of snow?
Yeah, there was like 3 to 4 inches yesterday.
Oh my gosh. Okay, we had probably about like an inch or so 2 days ago. And it all melted, and it was a beautiful sunny day, and it was so funny because you have like your little like daffodils all sad in the snow, and then it's sunny, and yeah, now it's snowing again. This is wild.
Now it's snowing again. It's okay. We got a nice warm meal.
Exactly. I should have been making soup. But this works perfect too. Okay, I'm actually gonna go ahead and like smash this guy too. I'm gonna do a little bit of both.
Yep, that works. And that's the thing about this recipe that I like. You literally can't do it wrong unless you don't cook your potato.
Yeah.
Really no way to like air quotes mess this up, which is why I like it.
Don't eat raw potatoes. That doesn't usually work.
Yeah, please don't eat raw potatoes. But like if you prefer, like if you wanted to not steam the broccoli and have a little crunch, like that's totally fine too. Again, you can really make it suit your preferences, which is very important to me because, there's lots of nutrient-rich foods out there. So like if you hate Brussels sprouts, you don't have to eat Brussels sprouts. We can get, all of those nutrients from a different vegetable. So.
Yeah, exactly. And I think that's kind of like the downfall with all this like superfood marketing too, is now we all think like, oh my God, I have to eat kale. It's like, you don't have to eat kale. If you hate kale, there's so many other leafy green things that are great for you too.
Yep. I am not a fan of kale. Strongly opposed.
All agreed. And you should check out day one because we made a really legit kale salad and I had a lot of fun making it. And it was actually really, really good.
So it might change your mind. Okay.
You might. I thought I was like, the end verdict. I think it might be you. So you might have to make it.
Okay. Well, my CSA is going to be starting up soon. So I do always get kale. Usually just like say, Mom, you take that, please. I won't eat it.
Yes. I know. Oh my gosh. Those like first couple of weeks of the CSA is almost like, so much green stuff. Like I can't do this anymore.
Right? Greens and beans is what I do. If this was in CSA season, I probably would have done greens and beans because that's what I do in those early days. Okay. And then freeze it. So when I don't have those months, I don't have my CSA, I can just pull it out of the freezer and thaw it in the middle of winter.
Oh, okay. Well, you might have to do a video of that because now I'm interested in this.
Oh, it's real good. Yep. Okay. I can tell you it'll be a very similar air quotes recipe.
Perfect. That's what I need. By the way, sweet potato and brie is like a heavenly combination. So if you are doing dairy in this, I highly recommend trying out brie if you're into that.
I love that idea. See, that's the joy of this recipe. You're like, oh, I have this. Perfect. Mm-hmm. Just put it on top.
And you gave me permission to just kind of like do whatever. So like I got this in there. Perfect.
Right? Yeah, so I'm gonna start stuffing mine too.
And I chopped up my broccoli real small because I didn't do anything to it beforehand. So let's just see what happens.
I'm just putting mine in little small pieces too. Not as small, but just kind of breaking up my steamed broccoli.
Awesome.
And I don't really measure anything in this, but I do try to get like a 1/4 cup of beans. That might be the only thing. I kind of just scoop it out just to make sure I'm putting enough on top for the, the benefits and a little bit of protein there too.
Okay, because a 1/4 cup is about a serving of beans, right? Okay, I'm actually going to go ahead and measure this so everybody can see what that looks like. If I even have a 1/4 cup.
A 1/4 to 1/2 cup, but I usually don't like people going underneath a 1/4 cup.
Okay, so you know what? We'll meet in the middle-ish or whatever and go a third is in the middle, sort of, right? Yeah. Okay, that's all I have. Somehow I'm missing a 1/4 cup. So it's really like, it's not even as much as you think. Like here's a third of a cup of beans.
Yep.
And I mean, it actually perfectly fits both sides.
Here's my 1/4 cup. And I also do a 1/4 cup because I will add like Greek yogurt on top for a little bit more protein. So if you're doing all plant forward, don't do dairy, vegan, etc., then I would up the beans a little bit just to get a little bit more of that protein as well.
Awesome. That's a great tip. And I think we had mentioned before, you could even put like an egg on top of this too, and that gives you protein right there.
Great little protein. I love putting eggs on anything. Kind of like one of the other guests, Laura Lagos, is put an egg on it. Definitely fall in that category with her. I am going to put a little shredded cheese on top because I want to use it up before it goes bad.
Yeah, you got to get it that bad. As I'm just like piling more beans onto this.
Right. And, you put it on I have mine on a plate. I will probably just pop mine in the microwave real quick. So I don't have to transport it back to my baking sheet, but you could really do either. You could even dress it on your baking sheet if you want to put it back into the oven so you don't even have to really worry about it. I threw it on a plate because my other potato was sitting over there. And
Yeah,
salsa.
okay, so I'm gonna put my salsa probably on at the end. I don't think I like cooked.
Yeah,
tomato.
again, preference. I would want my salsa a little bit warm, so that's why I'm doing it now. But yeah, it's definitely a good end topping as well.
Yeah, it could be the snow out there for you too.
Right? Trying to be warm. I'm like, oh, good, I get to turn on my oven today.
Yeah, exactly. Leave that thing open. Yeah, the logistics of this got me a little confused because I'm just doing way too much work. So there's much easier ways to do this than I am at now, like 2 baking sheets and transporting open potatoes and.
Right. Yes. Okay. So I'm gonna pop mine in the microwave. Just probably 30 seconds to a minute. My microwave isn't the strongest powered one, so. Pop in there. And then also on top of it at the end, I encourage people to use seasonings. They like red pepper flakes. I like spicy stuff, so I might throw some of those on top. Again, for like vegan, plant forward, nutritional, little nooch always goes great on anything, I think, especially something like this.
Do you call it nooch? Hold on, we gotta back up here.
Who did I learn that from? I learned that from another dietitian friend.
I've never heard that before.
Yep.
Explain yourself.
Oh, I learned it from my friend. Hopefully it's nothing inappropriate.
It sounds like it should be.
It sounds like it should be, but yeah, that's the nickname. Put that on top. And then I also have an avocado that needs some loving. So I'm going to plop some of this on top. But again, for, the all plant-based, vegan, vegetarian, if you're not going to, you don't do dairy, this is another great option to get some fat on it as well. Or guacamole, if you happen to have guacamole. It makes like another fun little twist to it too.
Another thing that you had mentioned earlier, I kind of wanted to come back to is we were talking about some symptoms of if you're an athlete, how do you know that maybe you're overdoing it or under fueling? I think it's also important to point out this is the same if you're just starting to exercise as well. And I've definitely been in that boat before of like just going really hard and like admittedly, wanting to lose weight or whatever too at the same time or whatever your goals are. And it's like those two things just don't go well together. In terms of exercising really hard and not eating enough, it's not sustainable and it's not going to make you feel good, which is, the anti of what we're trying to do here.
Right, exactly. No, that's a great point. If I do work with someone who is newer to exercise or they're like trying to get back into it after kind of an extended time off, I like to make sure that we have the basics down first. Are we sleeping? Are we drinking? Are we eating enough? Are we falling short on carbs, protein, whatever it might be? Before, not that they can't, in most cases start working out still as we build that foundation and get back to basics, but we don't go hard. We don't do HIIT classes and like back-to-back spin classes. We also gradually, increase that exercise and the intensity because the higher the intensity of workouts, the more fuel you're going to need.
I think we talk a lot about the sustainability of, your food choices. I think it's the same for exercise as well.
Oh yeah, 100% for sure. And like, I'm one of the dietitians, of course, some dietitians don't feel the same way, but I feel that there's nothing wrong with wanting to lose weight, right? Of course, this is a case-by-case basis. If you're extremely underweight, that's a different situation. But, to be successful and have it be sustainable, it shouldn't be the only motivation to do X, Y, and Z. We can track it. We can use it as, kind of something we monitor, we look at to see where the progress is. But more of those basics and those actions you take should be number one. It's not the only measure of progress. Definitely not always a measure of health. Using it as a piece of the puzzle when appropriate.
Yeah, absolutely. I love that you brought that up because I think there's also like a lot of this guilt coming up now with like weight loss is bad. And it's totally okay to want to lose weight and also want to be healthy. And there is a place where those worlds exist. There's just a lot of different factors around it. It's a lot more nuanced and case by case basis, like you said, and just working with somebody who's aware of those things and will help you find something that works for you is sustainable and, you know, brings you joy, I think is so important.
Yes, absolutely. Yes. It should be like when I said walking counts as exercise, you shouldn't just run a marathon because you want to lose weight. You're not going to enjoy it. Training for a marathon is a lot of work, same as an iron, you know, et cetera, et cetera. And you're, like you said, you're going to have a lot more fun if you're doing an activity that you enjoy, and it's going to be sustainable. You're going to be excited about, you know, going for a walk with, you know, maybe a walking buddy, or going to yoga class, or trying a spin class if you like it. So that's a really great point.
Awesome. Okay, let me go pull out my potato.
Yes, I just sliced my avocado. So, and I want to show you my cutting board. One of my many. It was a gift.
Oh my God, it says, I will cut you. I love that way too much.
It always makes me smile.
Oh, I love it.
Oh boy, how did I do on my avocado slicing? Ooh. I mean, honestly, I'm trying to slice it for some presentation, but when I eat avocado, I'm just kind of like a spoon, like pour salt on it and stick a spoon in it type kind of approach.
Speaking of presentation, I'm just like digging right in. I have not taken any pictures. I'm about to burn my mouth on this.
Oh, you're definitely gonna burn your mouth.
I don't even care. It looks so good. Look at that bite. Yeah, I'm gonna take it.
I really love the brie idea, by the way.
It's so good.
Here's what the avocado
Not kill my taste buds.
have.
Oh, it's so cute. I love it.
I'll put a dollop of Greek yogurt.
It doesn't even need it. You know, like this doesn't even need cheese if you don't want to, or
it really doesn't.
Whatever.
I mean, that's one of the good things about the sweet potato too, because the flavor is so, I don't know. I hope strong doesn't turn people off from it, but it's a strong, delicious flavor.
Oh my God, it's so good.
I'm going to do some red pepper flakes on top.
Okay, I'm just digging in. I'm sorry. It's too good.
And a little bit of salt on the avocado. Also, one of the things I enjoy about being an athlete is I sweat so regularly and my blood pressure is normal that I have I don't have to hold back on my salt. So there's my plated version right here.
That looks awesome. Oh my gosh, I love it.
Right?
So good. Yeah. I'm putting a little bit of salt on here just to enhance some flavor, but it really doesn't even need it.
No, it really doesn't.
And if you put like some black pepper or some like red pepper flakes, like you said on there, that would work great too. I think there's just so much flavor and so much stuff. Like this is going to keep you full for a while.
Yes. Honestly, I don't know. It's okay too if you don't finish it. If I don't finish this, what I'll probably do, I will obviously finish the Greek yogurt. I got kind of big potatoes, but I'll just put it into a Tupperware and save it. So
yeah, totally.
And then like you said, my other roasted potato, that'll stay in the fridge for a few days. So if I, eat the other part as part of my lunch tomorrow, it's like no sweat with that one. You don't have to worry about wasting it.
Yeah, totally. I mean, like I got a bunch of stuff chopped here. We got our beans out and, on their deathbed now. And so it's like tomorrow, just throw this all together. It's only going to take you 5 minutes.
Exactly. And like you said, put an egg on it, make it more of like a breakfast potato too. Or dinner. I mean, eggs are fine for dinner too. I'm a big fan of Brenner. So
eggs are okay all the time. And I remember I learned this a while ago, so you might have a little bit more insight on this. Eggs are really great for a post-workout just because of like their protein profile. Is that correct?
Yes. Yep. They have an amino acid called leucine, which is good. Can help increase muscle protein synthesis. So they're great for post-workout, great all the time. Typically I'm just very encouraged when someone's eating carbs and protein post-workout. So if you don't feel like you have to eat eggs post-workout, there are plenty of other options, but it is a great option.
Okay. And so what's a great vegan or vegetarian option then?
For my vegans or vegetarians, this would be a great option, right? Because if
With
you
the
look at
black
it, we
beans.
got carbs, we got the black beans for some protein. That's one of the go-tos. Trail mix can always be a good quick option as well. Trail mix and fruit, get a little bit more carb with a piece of fruit next to it. That's kind of one of my go-tos.
Awesome. And I was just thinking too, as you were saying, a breakfast option, a vegetarian or vegan version of it would be, you could do a sweet potato with some nut butter, maybe cinnamon or something like that. And
Yep.
again, you got the protein, you got a bunch of fiber, carbohydrate, you're ready to go. And fat too.
Yep, exactly.
Things on top.
Yeah.
So.
Nut butters are great.
So many options.
Right?
All right. Well, Stevie, thank you so much. I've loved this chat. This recipe is like going to be my new go-to. It's delicious. I'm going to scarf it all down once I'm not on camera and you can't hear me chewing anymore. And so just, is there anything that you'd like to mention before we go, maybe that I've missed?
I hope everybody enjoys this recipe and can kind of see that, including more plants doesn't need to be complicated. If you just kind of challenge yourself to think in a way that works for you and not feel like you have to always do, the perfect plated recipe. I always joke about my poorly plated, but yet delicious meals. And just to, like I said, think outside of the box a little bit, challenge yourself, and try and include something new in.
Yeah, ugly food for the win. And you're also offering a free gift. It's your guide to navigating rest day nutrition to fuel performance and recovery.
Yes. This is just kind of, I have a lot of athletes. I designed this because people are like, okay, well, I'm not exercising today. And they're like, they feel paralyzed. They're like, how do I eat? Those days I tend to see people restrict a lot, and you shouldn't be restricting on those days. Also applies if you're training for a race, or if you're not training for a race, but exercising regularly. That's a great day where your body has the time to rest, recover, and repair. So as it's repairing, that's part of the process. So you get faster, you get stronger. You don't want to restrict the nutrients it needs. So this is just kind of a simple, quick little guide, couple days to kind of show you what eating should be like and tips and tricks to kind of approach those days. Because once you get used to fueling, you're like, okay, I got to eat before this workout, I got to eat after. Those rest days are like, wait a minute, people get a little bit lost.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Awesome. That's not something you hear a lot about, but recovery is important in sport as well as in just daily life too.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. Stevie, where can people find you if they want to work with you or get to hear more from you?
Yeah, you can visit my website. It's stevielynrd.com. So like Stevie Nicks, Lyn, and you'll get all of that information. You can also follow me on Instagram at Stevie Lyn, Lyn. You must love dogs. I will say there is a lot of dog content that happens on my Instagram, so it's just a fair warning. But you can follow along for some different fueling tips, different poorly plated recipes, and, my adventures in hiking, running, and being a dog mom.
Awesome. I love it. Thank you so much. This has been so much fun. I really appreciate all your insight. So thanks for joining us today.
Yeah. Thank you so much for having me. This was super fun.
Thanks. See you next time.
Bye.
Bye.